we're here to talk about leadership in my field, in healthcare. I also thought about what are the lessons. Like if I had to write a book about my lessons from being a leader in healthcare, it would be a very short chapter. It would just say, be born very rich, be born to the founder of the company, be born tall, be born a man, and leadership is just given to you. And that would be a very short book and very useless for the purposes of our discussions today. But there are lessons, obviously. I'm trying to just see what I can share with you. The one thing that my father, who started this company, drilled into everyone who comes to work for us, everyone who's been with us from the beginning and the end, is to keep stressing on the power of purpose. Why are we here? What's our purpose? The work that I do is actually not that different from a lot of my classmates who graduated and who are working in finance and IT and making several more zeros on their paycheck than me. They're all on the phones and Zoom most of the time. They're giving talks and they are in meetings, but they're deeply dissatisfied. And that is because at the end of the day, you sit down and question, like I'm in banking, I'm in IT, I'm doing a lot of things. What is the meaning of it all? And that sense of ennui comes to a lot of people when you reach leadership positions. When you're in your 40s or 50s, you can be enormously successful. You can be enormously accomplished. And you can go through every day looking like it was the previous day all over again. But unless you feel driven by a higher purpose, it just makes you that much less effective at your job. So in our organization, and I would assume is the case for most of the organizations that you all are a part of, the mission focus, the purpose becomes this higher calling. Now it's not easy to quantify. It's not something that you can do the 10 bullet points and this is how you achieve purpose. It's something everyone discovers for themselves and sees their own meaning in it. So our purpose and the thing that we built our entire organization around is in making healthcare affordable and accessible to as many people as possible. But the day-to-day is pretty much the same in our company as it is anywhere else. We hire doctors, we hire nurses, patients come in, we build buildings, we get instruments, we give medicines, people complain, people don't complain, people are happy, people leave, people come in. It's pretty much the same. But because we're driven by a higher purpose, and that is ingrained into everyone, that why we are here is to make things affordable for our patients. And that is how we're able to inspire them to do a lot more for a lot less money if they were to work somewhere else. Another leadership lesson that I could share with you is bringing, Mr. Shibulal spoke about the collective responsibility. We call it we before me. And that is important as well because in any senior level, you are working with large groups of people, you are trying to inspire large groups of teams, and you always have to use a we language. We're in this together, we're working together. And that's good in a way because everyone feels a sense of ownership, and it's also good because when you mess up, as you inevitably will, you get to share the blame as well. And that as well is another very important thing to remember, in that collective action also means that collectively we all get responsible when we do dumb things, and it gets to fall on all of our heads. But that's being flippant. To be honest, most things are meant to be shared. There is no such thing as the single charging leader who drives way ahead of the army or someone who's single-handedly responsible for building anything. Whatever you look at, in any field, in anyone who's ever achieved anything, it's a group action. Now, maybe one or two people get the credit, and it's important for you to help in sharing that credit, but these are always collective responsibilities. Another important thing in leadership I've realized is to write things down, because occasionally you forget. Do not romanticize the mission. Now, this goes a little bit against what I said earlier, which is power of purpose and so on. Yes, on the one level, you are building a large story. There is a large sense of purpose, but don't fall too much in love with the work that you are doing on the assumption that everyone feels exactly the way you feel, everyone is motivated by the same set of incentives as you are, that when you're working with external stakeholders, that they care as deeply about this sector, about this field as much as you do, because that when it happens, it's great, but more often than not, it does not happen. There's this very famous saying, show me the incentive, I will predict the behavior. So you want to be effective, you need to learn to get things done. In order to get things done, you have to understand what drives people. To understand what drives people, the most base motivations, what is in it for me? What do I get out of this? How do I benefit? And those things tend to be as important as the work that you're doing, because people will never question when you're coming at them with a noble mission. If you want permission to expand some building, if you need some regulator to approve on some file, if you need to hire someone from a different field, and they will obviously be very much in love with the thing that you are doing, but there has to be a shared sense of alignment, and to understand that this field, in healthcare, and I would say in education as well, that you have to try not to romanticize it too much. There is a sense of reality that has to pervade, and for everyone to understand that, yes, you will benefit not just because you're part of something much bigger than yourself, but you'll benefit whether it is economically, whether it is through a sense of achievement and purpose, whether it is through getting a very high title. Those are things we found to be quite important as you are building up your own leadership teams. The other one is hiring a diverse group of people. There are innumerable examples from my field of people who, a group of doctors, a group of businessmen get together, set up an institution, and it just falls apart after a couple of years. What happens a lot of the time is groupthink sets in. If a group of doctors who are only in nephrology come together, or a group of people who are only from one particular community, or a group of entrepreneurs who only come from the same college, you can move very fast initially, extremely fast, because everyone thinks alike. You don't need to explain yourself too much. But invariably what happens is that life hits you. Things that you could not expect will come after you, and that's when you will realize that people who disagree with you, having people on the team who have a very diverse set of experiences, it's not just about filling some DEI quota to say that I'm ticking the diversity box. Diversity is all about having people who think radically different from the way you do, whose motivations are completely different from yours, who are there to question what you do. And the questioning is one of the most important things. The last thing I would say, from my experience at least, I found to be quite useful, being a leader at a young age as I was, despite everything being handed to me, is that I ask very simple questions. The purpose of our business. So in a hospital, you would assume that the most important thing to be done in our business is taking the patient care. So a lot of our work, a lot of effort gets involved in things like infection control, producing the best quality of surgeries, getting the best medicines, making sure people are discharged safer, and those are extremely important. But our patients, if you were to ask them at the end of it, what are the top 3 things that you had a problem with? Number 1, food. Number 2, the nurse was mean to me. Number 3, I had to wait in this counter for so long. None of those enters our calculus. And these are the things our customers value the most highly, enough so that they are willing to change their provider, because those are the things that are unaddressed. So in the quest for optimizing for the things that we hold the most important, we lose out on the things that our customers, in our case patients, in your case students, value the most. What could it be in education? It could be maybe jobs. The things that people care about is what is the career path ahead of that. Not romanticize so much about having this great depth of knowledge and understanding about every single aspect of how the world works. The practical reality is education is a path to a better life, and the path to a better life is some sort of career. And in terms of your orientation and the way your messaging goes, I would say figure out a way to address that. And that's what we've done. We've oriented our entire business around the things that customers can actually perceive with their eyes. Because as much as we focus on surgery, The sad truth is our patients don't experience it because they're anesthetized. If they're not, well, that's a whole other problem for us to deal with. And so they're not aware of all the work that goes into the infection control. They take it as a base level. They assume you've done all of this. But the things that they perceive, waiting, and solving for waiting is a very challenging thing because our business is one in which we have to work with huge crowds of people and doctors with very little time. Solving waiting has been a thing we may spend 20 years trying to fix, and we may never get anywhere close to it. But it's what our customers told us that they hate the most about coming to a hospital, and that has become our mission, to be the hospitals that have the least amount of waiting time. While also dealing with every other aspect of what it takes to run a hospital, if we address waiting and bad food and people not being nice to you, I think we will make a difference in how people perceive hospitals and how it has to be. So this is pretty much all I can share in things that I think are relevant in my sector to yours.